From the moment I was born, I was fed propaganda. And I viewed the Kim family dynasty not only as our fearless protectors from the imperialist forces, but also as gods. Growing up, I never thought our country's founder, Kim Il-sung, could even go to the bathroom like us humans. It wasn't until age 14, when I watched his funeral, I realized he was actually human. Until that moment, I thought our God couldn't die. Using elaborate deceptions as well as coercive tools of control, the North Korean leadership is able to indoctrinate and brainwash the vast majority of its citizens, depriving them of their natural right to learn the truth about the outside world. North Korean authorities also demand complete loyalty and submission to the system, and those who refuse are considered enemies of the state, and they are suffering horrific human rights abuses. For example, there have been numerous cases in my hometown where entire family disappeared in the middle of the night. One of the family's members complained. One of my friend's fathers said simply to his best friend, "This system is unfair." And he was sent to prison camp, while his family was forcibly relocated to a desolate place in the countryside where it is extremely difficult to survive. Many people in prison, they even didn't know why they were sent there, and they were completely stunned when they are dragged out of their homes and thrown into prison and ruining their lives forever. I also witnessed my first public execution when I was 7 years old. I was stunned to see the crowd around the man hanging from the bridge. North Korean authorities want people to live in a constant state of fear, so they force us to watch public executions. So sometimes schools canceled their classes, and the students could witness the public executions, and attendance was mandatory. People were even executed for very minor offenses, such as a man who stole 1 kilogram of grain from the farm to feed his starving family. The North Korean authorities often imprison those who are trying to escape or make money in China to support their families back home. Yes, supposedly, the socialist system provides no support and forces people into miserable life of poverty and hunger. Ultimately, the biggest killer in North Korea is starvation, which has killed more than 1 million North Korean people. By mid-1990s, I started to notice that people in my country around me was suffering. One day in 1995, I went to my friend's home and I noticed the whole family had nothing to eat. And the following year, I read a letter from a woman about her whole family was dying because they didn't have any food for weeks. They had no energy and no health, so the 5 family members were lying on the floor together and they were waiting to die. My most vivid memory from the famine was a lifeless woman lying on the street while an emaciated child in her arms just stared helplessly at his mother's face. I was so sad, and I placed some money in the child's lap, but I knew it wouldn't last. At that time, I still didn't know that we were suffering due to our government-failed system, and I believed the regime's propaganda that we are only suffering because of American sanctions. And I praised our leaders to protecting us and doing our best for us. Fortunately, information beyond the regime's control would soon help open my mind. I lived right next to the Chinese border, so amazingly, our television could pick up a few Chinese TV channels, and as I watched secretly, I became overwhelmed with curiosity and full of dreams about the outside world. Although even watching TV was a problem because of constant power shortages. At night, surrounded by darkness, poverty, and starvation, I often gazed across the river at China's brilliant street lights and neon signs, and I gradually realized that my country is not the best in the world. I had been lied to all my life. After this revelation, I was determined to leave North Korea to find out the truth about the outside world. I thought I could quickly return from the journey to China, yet I could have never imagined that it would take 14 years until I would see my family again. After arriving in China, I finally began to learn the truth about my country, and most importantly, I realized that a life of fear, hunger, oppression is a crime against the North Korean people. Although I began to get a sense of freedom in China, I was also terrified since the Chinese government will capture and repatriate North Koreans to a horrible fate back in North Korea. I couldn't go back to North Korea because I had a rumor that I had defected, so I had to live with some distant relatives in China. After 3 years of living under the radar, someone eventually reported me, so I was taken to the police station. The interrogators were grilling me for a long time and forced me to read difficult Chinese newspapers. I acted calmly on the outside, but inside, my heart felt like it was going to explode. If I failed to convince them that I was Chinese, my family and I would be in huge trouble. Thanks to the countless hours I spent studying Chinese, at the time my Chinese language abilities were enough to answer those questions and read those papers. After what seemed like an eternity, one officer said to another, "This was a false report. She's not North Korean." And they let me go. It was truly a miracle. After 10 years of living and struggling in China, and I decided that I wanted to see the differences between North Korea and the life in South Korea with my own eyes. So I got a visa to South Korea using my Chinese passport, and finally I received asylum at South Korea's Incheon International Airport. But settling down in South Korea was a lot more challenging than I had expected. North Koreans and South Koreans look similar on the outside, but inside we've changed due to more than 60 years of division. Throughout this time, our lifestyle, cultures, even languages have become different. And I went through a serious identity crisis. And surprisingly, I had to face yet another language barrier in South Korea, since English is so important. While studying for the university entrance exam, suddenly everything one day changed. I heard that my family in North Korea had a serious problem with the government because of me, so I had no choice but to risk my life by helping them to escape. So I took a plane back to China, and I met them secretly on the Chinese border with North Korea. It's such a difficult journey for North Koreans to travel thousands of kilometers without being caught in China. But luckily, with God's help, we were able to overcome numerous encounters with the Chinese police. Even though we made it successfully, my family was caught crossing the border into Laos, and then they were thrown into prison. After 50 days of going back and forth between the Lao Immigration Office and the police station trying to negotiate their release, I realized I didn't have enough money to pay fines and bribes anymore. I was so distraught. The whole world seemed so dark. But luckily, the bright ray of sunshine came into my life at the time. An Australian man named Dick, who was traveling in Southeast Asia. After he heard my story, he paid all the fines and bribes to my family and 3 other North Koreans to be freed from the same prison. I was lucky that I left North Korea and eventually made it to South Korea. But millions of others are still living in a virtual prison and without even knowing about the truth or the concept of human rights. And also, countless other North Korean women are suffering in China as they are forced into sexual slavery or sold as a brides. These days, North Korean refugees are playing very important role as a bridge between North Korea and the international community. We send money and information to inside North Korea that is helping to change North Korean people's mind. But North Korean refugees in South Korea are having a hard time adjusting to a highly competitive society since we never received proper education or important job skills in North Korea. I'm still a university student. After my graduation, I will aim to support North Korean refugees who want to receive higher education, as well as North Korean students who want to study abroad and connect people with the international community. Concerned people around the world, we should share the responsibility to help North Korean people, and we can do so in a variety of ways, such as donating to charities, volunteering, and urging all governments to get more involved. Most importantly, we can continue to spread the words about the plight of North Korean people and the crime of Kim dynasty, and work together to find viable solutions. As free people of the world, we not only have a duty, but a moral obligation to lend a helping hand to struggling North Korean refugees and to liberate the North Korean people from their shackles of oppression. Thank you for listening.